What's lurking in the Sierra Nevada mountains? Have you ever witnessed a skeletal, pale entity with sharp claws? What would you do if you saw a creature like this dashing towards you? Today, we test the believability of Penelope, the Sierra Nevada monster.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
where we dive into the unknown and the unusual
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. It is Tuesday. It is a new episode. We just did cryptids, and we're going to throw a couple more at you.
Yeah, and also, there's a quiz with this episode.
There is. If you are a patron of Believing the Bizarre, if you like that bonus content and you are a member, go check it out. I did quiz Charlie. There were 10 questions. Did he do well? Did he do bad?
I want to know how you did.
Did it come down to the final shot? The buzzer beater?
Yeah.
Maybe it did. I don't know. But Penelope, how this started, we have a cryptid picture frame. Like it's a poster.
Yeah.
With many cryptid on it.
Many a cryptid.
Many of them. And
they're having a party.
Yeah. And there was always this like creepy looking woman. And I was like, what is that? And Charlie's like, I don't know. He's like, what is that? I'm like, I don't know. And I asked other people.
Yeah, we asked each other a couple times.
In between asking each other, we didn't solve it.
No.
But when I was cleaning my office, this little piece of paper came out and it had everything outlined and it said, who is who? I'm like, I'm going to find out who that creepy looking woman is. And it says Penelope.
Penelope? That's just a kid's name. What do you mean?
Penelope.
And what did you do?
I Googled it. Penelope. Googled it. But then I added the other keyword, cryptid.
Cryptid.
And then I learned.
You learned. I'm excited to learn because I have no idea.
You have a little bit of an idea based on the quiz, but
even after the quiz, I'm still kind of like lost.
There's still mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy. She's very, very spooky, but I'm excited to get into it. But before we do, I just want to say very quickly, we are officially announcing this is, I think, the second year doing it.
It is.
It is our 3-year anniversary.
3 years?
Believing the Bizarre live stream.
I may or may not get you a cake.
I'll eat the cake. Maybe not live on the live stream. And I promise it'll go smoother than last year's. We hadn't even done the Twitch extended.
That was our first.
Yeah.
That was, oh my God.
We didn't do the extended discussions back then.
We learned real quick.
Yeah. But we're going to be reading some short listener submissions. So there's going to be spooky encounters. We're going to release a new Patreon tier and release some new merch.
Wow.
Live.
That's a lot happening.
It is a lot. Maybe even producer Ben will show up. We're trying to.
Maybe.
If you're listening to this, Ben, you should be there. And listeners, if you want producer Ben there, let him know. Well, you have to let us know, but then let him know. But with that said, let's get into Penelope, the Sierra Nevada monster. So real quick, sources, Weird CA, which shout out, we didn't just do it. We interviewed James Willis, who wrote Weird Ohio.
Yeah.
So I used Weird CA, Journal News, Phantoms and Monsters, which is a really awesome website.
Cool.
And of course, Mysterious Universe.
Mysterious Universe. The GOAT, really.
Go. I will say Phantoms and Monsters is pretty legit. If you haven't used it before, or if you haven't looked at it before, I would check that out.
There was one I used not too long ago. I was like, have you used this one before?
And I didn't.
It wasn't them. I don't remember who it was now, which I'm a little sad about.
It was legit.
Yeah.
So what is Sierra Nevada? It's a little confusing.
Yeah, I thought it was Nevada.
If you're not from California, it's probably a little confusing. If you're from California, I feel like it's everywhere.
Probably. It's like, Ohio is corn. Like, you know that because you're from here.
Right. Even though you don't believe it.
I don't believe it. I think it's more.
You grew up in concrete corn.
I grew up by the city. So, like, to me, Ohio is like potholes.
You're
and
a city slicker.
Yeah.
And alleyways. Dark, deep alleyways. So, Sierra Nevada is a mountain range in USA. It's between Central Valley of California and Great Basin.
Basin.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say Barrier Reef.
No, that's Australia.
That's Australia. Yeah, I knew that one.
Most of the mountain range is inside California, although it does kind of sneak into Nevada. It's weird because they call it the Sierra Nevada. Like, oh, hey, go to the Sierra Nevada.
Ohio State University.
It's weird because it's like, I know they say the Rockies, like the Rocky Mountains, but it's plural, the Rockies. It's and this is like the Sierra Nevada.
It's strange.
Maybe it's not that strange, but when I was reading it, it felt strange.
Caught you funny.
Anyway, it's huge. Like, it's 400 miles north and south. Width-wise, it's about 50 miles. And it's just like this, it kind of like shapes along with California. And it's just this huge chunk. Like, it goes down by Bakersfield all the way up to like through Fresno, Sacramento, and past Reno, Nevada, which is where, it's kind of at. But it's like made up of a ton of forests, like the Tahoe National Forest, Sierra National Forest, Sequoia National Forest, Yosemite, or some people say Yosemite National. I will never forget that from Fresno Nightcrawlers. So this creature, Penelope, has tons of roaming around room. She can go wherever she wants. She's got 400 miles.
So is her range is just in this area?
Yeah.
So has she been seen in Yosemite? Has she been seen in one of those other forests that you said?
She's been seen in Sierra Nevada.
Okay.
The Sierra Nevada. But who is Penelope? Who is this person? Let me set the scene. You hear it. You hear the little crickets. You're outside. You're hiking. And by you, I mean the collective you. I know Charlie hates hiking. Mm-hmm. He's not hiking, but mentally you're hiking.
I'm at home.
You're taking a mental hike, though.
That's right.
You're sitting down, but you're
in my
imagining.
Third eye. I'm hiking.
And you're hiking in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Could be anywhere. Let's say Sierra National Forest, right? The weather's warm. You're in California. You brought your surfboard. You don't know why you're hiking. You're surrounded by mountain scenery, beautiful trees, but the sun's setting. And you got caught up looking at this beautiful scenery and choosing the perfect Instagram shot. You thought that you found a place to stop, but you're still walking more and more. And now all of a sudden it's dark. You've misjudged the sunset and you find yourself a little bit lost and a little bit anxious. You hear noises in the distance, twigs snapping, rustling in bushes. You quicken your pace, trying to escape the woods. You hear one more large crack behind you and you turn around and see it. It's this woman-like entity with long arms connected to razor-sharp claws. It's hard to see her face behind her long black hair, but you can tell this thing is pale white as bone, other than her deep, blood-red eye sockets. She shrieks, and you see these terrifying teeth, and she charges you. You turn back around, you sprint as fast as you can, hoping to escape her reach as you dash past the tree line of the woods. Spooky, right? I don't know if you live or die. That's on you. This is a choose your own adventure. I don't know.
Hard pass.
I don't know I mean, and it's not like once you break the tree line, you're safe. Like that's not, I don't want to establish that as a thing. I'm just like, that's where I'm handing you the pen now. Ugh. You finish your story. Let us know what happens. It's a little dark though, right? A little spooky.
Yeah, super spooky. I don't like her at all.
Yeah. So what did you run into in the woods in that story? Who is Penelope, the Sierra Nevada monster? So Penelope is said to be very pale, very thin.
Bone white.
Borderline skeletal and about 7 feet tall.
Gosh, it's scary. It's just scary.
It is. It's something you don't want to run into anywhere, but I feel like also when you're in like outside exposed in the forest,
you have it's like those video games that I hate. You have no agency.
Like Outlast.
Nothing you can do.
Outlast?
Yeah, Outlast.
And like if you're in the forest and you're running, like she's not going to trip, right?
No.
Like she
can't trip. She's got plot armor.
I can't not trip. You know what I mean? Like if there's roots,
you have to trip. And
she's just like, she's not going to fall. So you have to be like perfect. You have to hit every quick time event.
Yeah, you can't miss that square.
She's often wearing either tattered clothing or nothing at all. She has freakishly long, gangly arms. Sometimes they're like twisted and turned in different ways. And she's said to have a very twisted, deformed, terrifying face with very long, dirty, matted black hair. Some folks claim that she does have eyes, while others say that she just has black or red holes, like literally just looking at the eye sockets, and that's it. She behaves very feral and aggressive, often baring her sharp teeth. Rumored to be lightning fast, and, she's got those claws, and supposedly she's known to disembowel her victims before they even realize she's there. Like, she's razor fast.
Well, she's got that gait. She's how old? She's how tall? 7 feet tall?
7 feet tall.
Giant gaits.
Yao Ming.
Yeah.
Shaq. Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
I don't... him.
I think Jokic is that big. Either way, so that is who Penelope is. That is what Penelope looks like. That is her M.O. Let's get to her urban legend. So this is the origin story of Penelope. There's a few of them I saw, but some are very short and very basic. But this is the one that seemed to have the most meat to it.
So where she came from?
Where she came from.
Okay.
This is her backstory.
Is she from the area?
I'm not going to tell you where she grew up. Like, I don't know that. It starts like mid-scene.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So the story goes that at one point in time, Penelope was a normal human, normal female, and she was traveling through Sierra Nevada with her husband. However, during their drive, they were hit by a massive snowstorm. The blizzard reduced visibility to basically zero. Penelope panicked, swerving the car back and forth, fighting the wind, and hoping that she was staying on the road. But unfortunately, their car violently slid off the road, leading to her husband's death. Some stories say that he literally was decapitated and like sitting on her lap.
Oh, gosh.
Which I don't know what kind of tree branch or like what she would hit to make that happen.
To move him on her lap.
Well, just the head.
Oh, okay.
Like his head came off and fell on her. But others say that the blow to his head, it was just the dash. Like he hit his head on the dash and that's how he died. Regardless, Penelope lived. She was scared and shocked, didn't know how to respond to the sight of her deceased husband. So with his blood on her, she dashed from the car into the raging snowstorm in a panic. Eventually, the storm subsided, but she was lost, So I guess maybe she wasn't from there. But she had no clue where she was. She had no idea where the road was. But at this point, she didn't care. She's just wandering around the Sierra Nevada wilderness. She found herself in kind of a delirious state of mind, mad with grief, living with what happened to her husband. And she's eating like bugs and insects and animals just to survive.
So it's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. But then another snowstorm hits. And even though she's mentally out of it, she still knows to survive. She needs to find some type of shelter.
Yeah.
So she ends up finding this large metal drum that not only is just this random large metal drum in the Sierra Nevada, it also contains a toxic sludge-like waste.
Oh, okay.
Not ideal. She's in her Joker era. But it was her only means of escaping the blizzard's bone-chilling elements. So she crawled into this container and spent the night uncomfortably stuffed inside.
Okay.
And apparently, what they say is that the toxic sludge seeped into her and changed and morphed her into the Sierra Nevada monster that we know today.
I just have no words.
She emerged from her sleep, crawling from the metal drum, this savage giant monster with a never-ending urge to eat meat. And now she's got fangs, claws, a tangled mess of hair, and she began her journey through Sierra Nevada looking for prey.
That did not help her.
Sanity's gone. She's no longer Penelope. We don't really know what her name was. She's no longer that woman that was driving and accidentally killed her husband.
Yes.
And that sounds like I'm putting blame on her, but I'm not.
No, it wasn't her fault.
No. If he would have just told her to calm down, I'm sure it would have been all okay.
He said, "Why don't you smile while you drive?"
Oh, no. Maybe she killed him.
Rightfully so. It also reminds me of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Sure.
A little bit.
A little bit. A little bit. I guess if I make the Joker in comparison, they both hold the same.
Yeah.
So according to legend, she's responsible for derailing a train, eating all of its passengers, killing a few hikers, attacking campers, murdering park rangers.
Can we rewind?
And even attacking a mobile home park where she killed many of the inhabitants.
Okay. To the train?
Yeah.
She derailed the train.
Probably with her big, gangly arms and shoulders. She probably, this is going to sound mean, she probably looks a little bit like Kevin Durant. I don't know if you've ever seen Kevin Durant, but he a lot of people make fun of him because he can't gain muscle, but he's strong. I'm sure he's very, very strong.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably rock solid. I don't know if you've ever bumped into somebody who's really.
I have. Yeah.
It's rock.
Yeah. Our friend Tyler.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
But so she's probably like that. Now, I'm not saying Kevin Durant could derail a train. Maybe with a tweet, but
maybe she put a rock on the track and
she's ha ha ha. She probably put the dead bodies on the track that she was.
She sounds in the worst way, a monster.
It's like when you have a sandwich, but you want to make it a what is it called? A flat? What is it called?
Panini.
A panini?
A panini.
Yeah, she was she put her bodies on the tracks.
Panini.
She wanted the train to make it into a panini.
And she's like, well, now I got a lot of paninis.
That's what the episode should be called. A lot of paninis. A lot of paninis in the Sierra Nevada. So, like, all of this is in, like, at what if they said apparently.
Yeah.
What's another? There's another. Allegedly. We're all in allegedly territory here.
Okay.
But allegedly, as the details of this creature spread and these deaths, even if there's not a train derailment, like let's just say some park rangers and some hikers were getting mauled, right?
Yeah, okay.
So as this urban legend is spreading, the urban legend says that local rangers heard about this and heard about this thing attacking people and local wildlife. So they dispatched a hunting party to find this woman and either put her out of her misery or take her into custody. And when they found her, they had no choice but to just start shooting at her.
So they did find her.
And it made no impact on her. She was impervious to the bullets, which left them defenseless, and she killed and disemboweled every single one of them.
Oh.
Apparently.
Well, they didn't do very well.
No. So that's the urban legend of Penelope, what she does, what she do.
What she still does.
What she allegedly still does. So let's get into some encounters.
It makes you not want to go into the desert, into the Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, I looked up photos though. So I was very confused. Like this wasn't like the monster of Yosemite or the monster of Yellowstone. Like I didn't know anything about Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
And before I did an episode on it, just because I feel like there's people with like notepads waiting.
I'm actually really surprised
for us to say something wrong. I've probably already said multiple things wrong this episode, but it's like y'all are bullying me into doing goddamn research. I'm just playing. But before I talked about it, I wanted to at least get a feel for it.
Okay. Yeah, the place itself. I'm surprised this wasn't on like your radar.
Were you super familiar with Sierra Nevada?
No, but you like parks and stuff.
Yeah, but I'm like every park is so west, right?
It's true.
Like we got very little east of the Mississippi, and I've never been to California.
You'd like it a lot. I like it a lot.
There's probably a lot of parts of it I would like, but I wanted to get a feel for it. I wanted to know. Like I would have never thought it had all these forests in it, right? Or like how big it was. Like it literally like
California is very big,
right? And so is Sierra Nevada. It's just what gets me is I was just hiking in the Sierra Nevada. I just feel like, so Nevada?
Like which part? I know. Yeah, I literally thought this was Nevada.
Anytime someone says that to me, I'm going to be like, do you mean this forest, this forest, this forest, this forest?
Yeah.
Shut up. But anyways, I shouted this at the top, but there's a website called Phantoms and Monsters. It's run by a paranormal researcher and author named Lon Strickler.
Cool.
And I think because he has credibility in the paranormal world, people send him stories for him to submit so that other people can say what they think it is, but also I think just so, people can get their stories out there. It's nice to have a medium where you can send your own creepy stories. But that said, I got 3 of them. I got 3 encounters.
You got 3 encounters?
I got 3 encounters that were submitted to this Sir Strickler.
Wow.
He's not a sir. He hasn't been knighted.
He's not British.
No. But I got 3 of those encounters. So the first one comes to us from, and a lot of them are like initials and first names. So this one is LR.
Okay.
And this took place in 2023, apparently. So very, very, very soon.
This year.
Yeah, super soon. Like within the last 6 months.
Oh.
As of the recording of this. So this person named LR claimed that they were camping in an RV with their teenage son in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Tioga Lake. Kind of sounds like Geauga Lake.
It does sound like it's like a West Coast ripoff.
Yeah. They said...
No, Tioga and Geauga are beefing. What's side for lunch?
Tiaga's probably much better.
Probably.
I don't think Geauga Lake's around anymore either. Geauga took him out. So anyway, so it's his father and their teenage son. And it was late at night, like around 12:30 in the morning, 12:30 a.m. And the son had went to sleep. They were preparing for the next day. And LR was looking over some maps of where they were going to be going when he heard a very shrill, blood-curdling scream. And this is a quote from LR. At first, I thought it was a coyote, but it was a single scream and sounded more human, almost like a woman's scream. I opened the RV door and stood silent in its doorway. Once again, the high-pitched scream started. This time, it woke my son. We both stood at the door as the screams continued from the direction of the mountain. After about 10 minutes, the screams stopped, and we both went to bed. A little later, Something startled me while I was sleeping because I woke in a panic. I looked at my watch. It was 2:40 in the morning. Then, all of a sudden, that same high-pitched scream erupted right outside of the RV. As it started, my son jumped out of his rack and fell to the floor. I grabbed my .44 just in case. As we looked out through the windshield, the moonlight was bright enough to illuminate a tall, thin creature with light, pale-colored skin. My son immediately yelled, "Zombie!" It did look like a female human form, but the face and the rest of the body looked horrible. It reminded me of an old witch. No clothes, deformed face, long dark-colored hair, long arms and legs. I figured it must have stood about 7 feet tall. It was walking away from the RV toward the lake. I'd seen enough. I made sure everything was ready to go and drove out of there ASAP. We ended up near Mono Lake. This is bear country, and I know that there's been Bigfoot reports over the years, but what we saw was neither, as far as I can tell. A few days later, I was able to talk to a ranger as we walked through the camping area. He was an older guy and pretty engaging. I described what we witnessed, and my son also verified what we'd seen. The ranger got a very serious look on his face and said that over the years, something similar had been reported a few times. He said that they called it Penelope, but he didn't know why it gotten that name, and that's all he knew. So that, unquote, that's the end of LR's encounter with Penelope.
So, it's very scary. I did not like that.
I love how you nodded when I was like, he grabbed the .44. You're like, yep.
I would do the exact same thing.
It's really tough, too, because, like, obviously he's probably a little scared for himself, but also you got your son with you.
Oh, yeah.
So you're also in, like, protect mode, but you're all, like, it's...
There's a whole range of emotions. Fearing from your own life, fearing to your son's life.
Yeah.
Fearing for whatever that is. Yeah.
It's interesting how he's like, this is bear country and also Bigfoot reports. It's like, dude, like...
That's not...
This is anything like that at all.
Yeah.
Although I am intrigued to hear that it is a Bigfoot country. Although I guess that's Pacific. It's not really Pacific Northwest. It's like
close. It's like adjacent.
It's Central California, so that doesn't feel.
I can see the connection.
It's close. Like I mean, you know, even Bigfoot's got to take a little trip south every now and then.
True.
Right?
Yeah, he's like, this area is beautiful.
Skiing's great this time of year. So that was their first encounter. Let's move on to number 2, also at Phantoms and Monsters, and this is from Steve M. The letter M, just an initial. He doesn't want you to know.
No.
But he wants you to know more than the other person. You get a first name.
Yeah, this guy is Steve.
This is Steve. And this took place on Labor Day weekend in 2014.
Okay.
So still, I mean, about 10 years ago now. But still, I mean, recent. I would compare to many stories that we tell on this podcast.
It's in this century.
Yeah, exactly. So Steve was camping in Mono Lake, which actually
it's kind of the guy where he just drove to,
right where he left. So it's kind of like he's passing the baton. He's like, "All right, you tell the Penelope story now."
Other way.
He's like, "Well, mine was first, but
yeah."
But that's where he went from wherever he was at to Mono Lake. So now we're picking up at Mono Lake like 10 years before. So Steve's camping. It's around 5:30 p.m. He loaded his gear into his car, and he was prepared to go out fishing like you're going to be doing.
I am Saturday.
I guess it'd be like last Saturday. When this comes out, but
yes, it will.
So I hope you caught. Whatever.
I hope I caught several fish.
Yeah, but I would also hope that you threw them back. But
I'm gonna eat them.
Well, maybe you won't catch anything.
You gonna tell the fish?
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, don't go here. Go anywhere else. So as he's driving this dark road, he's got his wife with him and his stepson. Steve claims that he saw something thin and pale crawling low to the ground. And it was so strange looking that he actually slowed down his car to get a better look. Here's a quote from Steve. Quote, "The first odd thing that I couldn't understand was the way it was crawling so low to the ground. Unlike a hunting cat, the legs were all wrong. Its knees seemed to be backwards, but it was running on them. My thought was that maybe it was an escaped sheep or a goat that had broken knees, and it was running for its life because it was moving so fast. But as it came closer and closer to us, I could hardly take my eyes off its freaky legs. To this day, I still lay awake at night, puzzled by how they were even working. I've never seen a mammal move this way. The closest thing would probably have to be a crab or an insect. The front and back legs moved together in unison. There was no bouncing, no swaying, galloping, or jumping like that of a mammal. The creature's torso, which seemed to be about 4 feet long, stayed straight, low to the ground, as its legs and arms did all the work. To me, it almost looked like a puppet with a marionette moving it along. By this time, my wife could only get out a "what the hell?" as we saw it maybe 50 yards away to about 20 yards. You could see that it had no fur at all, just pale, sinewy, stretched skin over long, skinny, well-defined limbs. Its, quote, broken knees were long, skinny fingers or claws, a foot long or more. The torso was maybe the size of a large goat, but it also had broad shoulders, very human. Possibly like this thing normally walks upright. This is what my wife kept pointing out. The shoulders literally made it look human. All this was freaky, but we both stared intensely as to figure out what it was. When it got closer, the face became more and more defined. The second we laid eyes on it, the face and head did not make sense. But I tried to put myself at ease by saying to myself, well, okay, it looks strange now, but when you get face to face, you'll see a familiar goat snout, or maybe a cat canine nose, or a jackrabbit face. No, this thing looked like it came out of a horror movie, like a space alien creature or a humanoid monster. The nose I was looking for wasn't there, just a flat opening with 2 nose holes high up on the face. There were no ears, just small holes on the side of the head with shaggy hair, but whatever they were smaller than a human's for sure. It had highbrow ridge bones, but the skull didn't have a huge human cranium. It was more like the size of a chimp's. It had a large chin that protruded, maybe strong jawbones, but this part I totally didn't get at all. The eyes. I saw these large eye sockets off in the distance, but they never reflected in the light. As it came nearer and nearer, I saw the color red. Not like a light that was glowing, but maybe many veins. The blood within was giving it the darkest color on this pale beast. As we were within 10 to 15 yards away, I only saw sockets and no eyeball, like that of a blind cave fish or something. Now this blew me away. I thought, how was this thing turning its head to glare at me with no eyes? Was it a ghost? But as it passed us and I came to a complete stop, I saw it zip into the woods and kick up dust. The thing had been flesh and blood, at least for the 15 to 20 seconds that we observed it. Also, there was no smell or anything else odd as we noticed. I should have taken pictures of the tracks, but I didn't think to do it because, honestly, I was so puzzled and thought maybe we witnessed a ghost because of how unreal it appeared. I was also with my family, like I said, which I'm very protective of. Normally, if I'd been alone, I might have been on the trail. What was this thing doing so close to a campground puzzles me. My wife said, even though I was only thinking it, this thing seemed intelligent. It was creeping in the dark, mad at us for discovering it. The mouth was closed, but it had tight closed lips that almost seemed to grin. I didn't see any teeth, large canine or flat herbivores. Its skull was that of a predator, not prey, with eye sockets positioned on the front, not the sides. I've seen a great many extraordinary things in my life, so I've learned to be a great eyewitness and not jump to conclusions. Only observe, make notes, and evaluate later. My wife is the biggest skeptic I've ever met, not fully believing the many extraordinary stories that I've told her. She comes from a lifetime of cold, hard, harsh reality. No room for any stretch of the imagination. Well, now she's a believer, and is afraid to this day of what's walking around those Sierra Nevada mountains. Unquote.
Jesus Christ.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's really creepy. It's really creepy. These stories are just... Could you imagine seeing something like that?
Yeah, I can actually.
Forest?
Yeah, I had a mental thought when he was talking about the way the legs were bent improperly. I mean, all I could think about is what me and my friend Ethan saw, like Skinwalker, right?
Yeah.
Because honestly, this is also very different from the first Penelope story in a way.
It is
the first guy
It was like tall and like lanky.
The first story mentioned Penelope kind of as the origin story says, where she's tall, long black hair, you know, shrieking claws and everything. This is more like creeper crawling on all fours.
Yeah.
It didn't really say like long black hair, eye sockets.
Okay, so you're not going to get this reference, and that's okay. Other people will.
Okay.
It reminds me of the Titans from Attack on Titan. They're these strange-looking humanoid figures that don't behave like people do, but they're giant. It reminds me very much of that.
Okay. This is something, and I'm not going to dive too much into it later because I think it's something we'll eventually cover in a full episode. But one of the things that Penelope gets classified as is a pale crawler. Mm-hmm. And this seems more like that lore than specifically Penelope's. Like, it seems like Penelope has characteristics of a pale crawler, but is like a unique version of one.
Like I don't know anything about that, so.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you were talking last week about the familiars and the Jawoogle.
Yeah.
I feel like Penelope could be classified as like what the Jawoogle is to familiars. I feel like Penelope is to maybe pale crawler.
Okay, like I understand that.
She's like it's all rectangles or square, or all squares or rectangles. But
yeah.
Like I don't think she perfectly matches what people think of as a pale crawler, and I think this story is closer to that. But people also, because Penelope is known in the area, I think sometimes things fall under her umbrella.
This is the scariest thing I think we've talked about since being in the studio. And to me, it's just another energy. Yeah.
It really brings back the story. And it's funny because we talked about Pennsylvania last week, but it brings back the pale man story. Like the winter cabin. Then just the girl by herself and just sees this thing outside on the window. I wonder if we talked about pale crawlers then.
I don't think no, we didn't, because we didn't know about.
Maybe people commented about it.
I think that might be it.
Well, I think people said the rake.
Yeah,
they said it sounds like the rake.
People said it sounded like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but that's like it's just spooky stuff. It's one of those and I hate that this is always what I think of, but I always think like the Dover Demon. Like, there's some things that are paranormal that just aren't like super scary.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you're there in person, it's scary, but when you're talking about it, it's not scary. It's just weird, right?
Yeah,
it's just bizarre. Mm-hmm. But this is one of those things that's like, whether you're there or you're talking about it, it's
freaky.
Very, very scary. You never, like, if you got to be like, Tyler, you get to have a paranormal experience, what do you want to experience? There's many different things I would say before getting to a Penelope.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't think I'd ever get to a Penelope.
Definitely. There's a lot of things I'd like to see.
Like a UFO from a distance.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Like a tornado, right? Like from a distance where you're safe. Yeah. I'd love to see it. I saw something, but I'd like to see the ship.
I'd much rather see a squonk than a Penelope.
Just go in the soggy areas of Pennsylvania.
Squonks.
All right, let's move on to our third and final encounter. Okay, this is our third final encounter. It comes to us from another anonymous 2-letter name, ZD. So, same source. ZD says that they were staying at a remote fishing lodge called Twin Lakes Resort with his wife. The resort is located near Bridgeport, California. It takes place very early in the morning. They were heading out to go fishing, the fishing story. It was just before dawn, and there was hardly any sunlight, so they had their headlights on. As they were driving, something skeletal and very low to the ground crawled out in front of them, moving in a very irregular and disjointed way. Like I just said, and we just talked about, this really made me again think of my encounter that I had with my friend Ethan from episode 100. So if you haven't heard that, go check that out. But let's get into ZD's quote. Quote, "Now, when my lights came across the creature, it was crossing the road, and we got the feeling like we totally surprised it. As I turned on my high beams, it seemed to get very irritated as it turned its long human-like neck towards us and almost shook its head as it gave us a glare and started to double time along the road now in our direction. We were getting closer, but instead of being able to more positively ID the creature, I was only more confused. Mostly because this thing's legs weren't broken at all, but it was running on them like that. Long, lean limbs, but it was crawling, creeping impossibly low to the ground. Its torso had to be no more than 5 inches from the ground. yet it was moving at a strangely incredible pace. I wondered first, with such long limbs, why is it so low? And not running on the bottom of hooves or paws or something. How could it run so fast? The order of the feet landing was completely wrong too. And if it was really trying to retreat quickly, it was not bouncing or swaying side to side. Its limbs were moving in unison like a crab or a spider. It appeared to me to be like a puppet being moved by a marionette. Incredibly bizarre. Maybe because I was so puzzled that I couldn't classify this animal, it kept me from flipping out when we got close enough to see its facial features. I should describe that I saw clearly and up close, as I mentioned, a human-like torso and no tail. As we passed it, it was not shaved at all. It was hairless and had pale skin, and its limbs were incredibly long. It had very defined muscle, and it was sinewy. Although it was crawling close to the ground, it had very large human shoulders. The neck was thin and long, holding forward a gazing predator head. I was waiting to see the reflection of its eyes in my car lights, thinking I'd have a better chance of identifying what this creature was, but that wasn't the case this time. There were no eyes. It was just deep eye sockets. We were horrified when we saw these terrifying, deep eye sockets. Well, I just about drove off the road, but I remained my focus and I kept going straight, and that was the last I saw of it. I never saw this thing again, and I have no idea what it could have been. I really feel like I wasn't supposed to see this thing. Unquote. So the second and third story, remarkably close.
I was going to say, I hate that they both said the same thing about the shoulders.
Yeah.
Sinewy was used in both stories, I think. And wow, very similar. So it makes me feel, oh God, I don't want to say that I believe this thing is out there.
Yeah, no, it's spooky. It's creepy. But it's also interesting because like, I feel like there's two and two. There's like the origin story and then the first encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And then these last two, which I guess things change over time. Like I guess it could be Penelope, but also like I don't know. So before we get to the discussion, let's talk about a couple things that some people think it could be. So first things first, we've already kind of mentioned it, and I think it probably holds the most weight, is the pale crawler, which I think is a great topic. I'm sure we'll cover it one day. Mm-hmm. Pale crawler is a thin, pale cryptid. I wrote it in here, but just saying it reminds me of that submission we got from Pennsylvania, which I think was listener submission collection 2.
And it was like 2 or 3.
Yeah, it was one of the early listener submission collections. I think we turned it into its own thing on YouTube, but you have to search that.
It's creepy.
Yeah, the smiling pale man or something like that. Some people think these crawlers are not dangerous, although they kill animals and give off negative energy. Other people think that they're terrifying and they can cause harm to you. They're very bony. They're very elongated, pale, skeletal. They crawl on all fours.
It's I hate it. I hate it.
It's definitely something you don't want to see, and so you could see why a lot of people think Penelope might be a pale crawler, like
I would hit it.
Special.
I would hit it with my car.
Yeah.
I'd run it over so fast.
The other thing is, I don't believe this to be true, and this will probably be something else we talk about eventually, is some people think it could be a rake. I think it's kind of like Slender Man, because the rake is a creepypasta.
Yeah, I don't like the rake story.
And everyone, I feel like you've seen the rake viral photo.
Yeah.
It's very popular. I don't put a ton of weight on this because it is a creepypasta, the same as Slender Man, but like Slender Man is inherently creepy.
Yeah.
Just like the rake is. What is the rake? Super tall, hairless, pale, humanoid-like creature. Crawls immensely fast. Mm-hmm. No nose or typical mouth, apparently. Like it doesn't have a mouth here. Apparently its jaw opens up. Like it has underneath its chin is where the mouth and the razor-sharp teeth are.
Yeah, but you know what? The rake would get a good kicking from me. I'll tell you that right now.
Where would you kick it?
Its face. In the power right in the kisser.
The kisser's under its chin.
The whole thing.
Okay. And the last thing, which this was talked about a little bit, I don't know. Some people think it could be an alien. I don't really get alien vibes from it. I
think if an alien saw that, they'd be like, what the f***?
They're like, that's what lives here?
Yeah, we gotta go.
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe the aliens were here in like the 50s, 60s, 70s and stuff.
I wonder if it's like an experiment. Like we talked about in the Chupacabra episode. Like, yeah, it was something like go by aliens. Maybe it's some kind of genetic test.
They dropped it off here.
They let go.
Where their recycling bin. Like, well, we don't want to throw it away.
It's so good.
We'll just put it
I don't
here.
want it.
We're the back of the fridge. Earth is the back of the fridge. We're like us and then like the bagged salad.
Oh, you don't want that.
No. I think the pale crawler holds the most weight. It feels like a special version of the pale crawler.
I definitely don't think it's the origin story is not what it is.
You don't think so?
No.
Wow. It doesn't even pass Charlie's sniff test.
No.
That's not good. That's not good.
Why is there random material in the phone?
Just random toxic sludge.
Yes.
It's from the aliens.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the one alien that thought it was the garbage planet.
Isn't
not
this a dumping zone? Like
they're like, no, this is the recycling planet. Didn't you see the big green triangle thing on it? A lot of people do that at parties since they don't know and they just throw a plate of food away, and that's the toxic sludge. But with that said, I want to talk about this more in the discussion. So before we get to the discussion, we like to stop the episode and thank our newest patrons who, as of the recording of this episode, are Jesse, Lily, and Brownie0375. We have a lot of Patreon content. We have multiple tiers. We're going to be dropping a new one very, very shortly, but for the time being, we're only going to talk about the ones that already exist. And we're just going to highlight a couple that we really like. Charlie, what awesome Patreon segment bonus content would you like to highlight on this here Penelope, the Sierra Nevada Monster episode?
I'm always scared going first because I'm always scared I'm going to take your thing.
You won't.
But the thing I want to highlight is it's a pretty new segment. It's Remembering the Bizarre because I love the quizzes. I love playing the games. It's just another game. And it's our first and I think only co-op game where Tyler and I get to play together, which is a lot of fun.
Yes, producer Ben is trying to quiz us on one of our own episodes.
Yeah, he takes our past episodes and we got to take our knowledge to the test because it's been like 100-something, 60-something
106,
episodes.
I think 166 when this comes out.
Yeah, so it's a lot of episodes.
We've only done 2 so far, but I've been very shocked with how much we both remember from our episodes.
I would like them to be a little more challenging.
This episode, this most recent one, had some challenging ones for sure. And there's one that I'm never going to forget because it felt like it was right. It doesn't matter. No, that's a really good segment. I'm going to talk about an old one.
Okay.
Social media response.
Ooh.
Some segments, there's like rules that we make and you got to focus on certain things. This one really just feels like we're kicking back and tossing out questions and just coming up with ideas. So every Monday, there's a question on our social media channels like, would you rather do this or that? Or what's your favorite horror movie? Or what if you did this or that? And you guys respond to them. And then in this segment on Patreon, we go through your responses. We comment on your ideas. We say our own. It's so much fun. There's so many fun ideas. We go on little rants. It's just relaxing and just talking about paranormal stuff in a very light way. And I love that.
Social media response reminds me of very much of like what Believing the Bizarre would be like if it was like a typical podcast. You know what I mean? Like boys hanging out talking about
dudes
stuff.
Talking about stuff we want.
What's your favorite horror movie villain though? Like I'm poking fun of it, but I do enjoy it a lot too.
Yeah, well that's why it's just once a month, right?
Yeah.
It is a lot of fun though, and I appreciate everybody who comments, and we get to know you through your names.
Yeah,
like we hear the same names over and over again, and I hear it through Ben's voice.
Yeah, only through Ben's voice.
But I'm starting to find personality through repeated comments, which is cool. But there's tons more on Patreon, so many bonus segments. Go check that out if you like the podcast and you want a little bit more, or you would like to support the podcast, which means a lot to Charlie and myself. But with that said, let's get back to the main episode. All right, so we got Penelope, this creepy creature that I would never want to run into ever.
Never. What would you do if you did, though? What would you do?
If I was on foot?
Do you have like a battle plan?
No. I'd be like the squonk. I just lay down and cry. If it was in a car?
Yeah, it seems like most are in the car.
If it was in a car, I probably would just drive away. You know what if the second and third story are the same? The dude just changed his name and like modified his story. You know, it's funny. They both like seemed very clinically observant, which is funny.
Well, okay. So fishing is a bit of an older person's hobby.
They're always observing the end of their fishing rod to see if it bobs. So
I think these are probably older gentlemen.
Okay. I don't know what I would do. And nothing I tell you right now would be accurate because it would be whatever I would do in the moment. and I'm not, like you can't plan for that type of thing.
If I was in a car, I'd drive real fast.
When I saw something that I didn't understand in a car, I broke and I almost started crying.
That's true.
That's what I did. And thankfully, my friend next to me was just as disturbed. And then
I'm glad you had a witness with you.
Can I get a witness? And then I pulled to the right to see where I went, and it was a cemetery. And that was when I knew he lived a minute from there, and I couldn't drop him off. But I don't know what I'd do.
By the way,
if I saw it in person, I don't know if I would run or if I would be so shocked and frozen with fear. I don't know.
I'm not a runner. I'm a fighter.
You pulled me back. I know. Last time we ran. So what do you think? So you don't believe the origin story?
No, I don't. I don't buy the origin story at all.
What toxic waste could turn a terrified woman into a 7-foot bony white?
Yeah, I don't think that does that.
I don't think so either.
This isn't like the Batman universe. This isn't Laughing Gas.
Harley Quinn. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe the origin. It's a fun origin story with a lot of twists.
Yeah.
But that just leads me to believe more. Okay, so let's move on from that and go on to what it could be. It makes me feel like it's just either a modified version of a pale crawler or it's an exaggerated pale crawler. Like it's just that type of entity that people have just elaborated on and maybe embellished.
I think maybe, yeah. I think that's the only thing I could think of.
It's a pale crawler that wandered into a spirit Halloween store.
Well, I don't really know what a
wig.
pale crawler is. So
I said what it was.
You did, but I don't know that much about it. So I know its name, I know its number. I don't know anything else about it. I don't know I don't know where it went to school.
It sounds like we'll have to do an episode on them.
I think we will
in the future. Yeah, they're still waiting on us to do, what is it, Harp from episode 4?
Oh, jeez, oh man.
I know, we're like, we'll get to it soon.
I didn't promise that.
No, you didn't promise that. So, okay, so what do you think? I guess you don't know exactly what a pale crawler is, and we can't discuss that. Is there anything else from your lore of knowledge that you think it's more likely to be than, and it could just be its own cryptid, like it just could be its own thing.
What if this is like the actualized version of a nightcrawler, Fresno nightcrawler?
Oh, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
But what if it is?
It could be.
They both have pale skin. They both have long legs.
They're Fresno area, like they both like California.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's so creepy though.
Do you think it's like physical or spiritual?
I think it's physical.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to lean physical though. I really do.
I hope Bigfoot beats it up.
Interdimensional.
I'd like to see that fight. He pops
in the dimension, just decks it in the face.
I'd watch that fight.
It feels like so much of the origin feels embellished. The killings, how it came to be.
Oh, yeah. I think that's just so I think people are seeing this thing and then they built this legend about it.
I would agree with that. That really seems like what it's most likely to be.
Yeah.
So on our believability scale, what of believable, viable, skeptical, and unbelievable, Charlie, where do you put Penelope, the Sierra Nevada monster?
I hate that I'm going to do it, but I'm going to go with a viable. I think it's viable. I hate to think that thing is out there in California somewhere, but yeah, viable.
I think if I was going to base it off of the origin story and everything that we talked about today, I probably would go skeptical.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to take the approach you did, where it's more so like what was seen than what's told about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we've had 2 encounters that were so close, and really the first story really is like the most credible thing about Penelope. Like not this creature, but the lore of Penelope, that it was a woman.
Yeah.
The first encounter of the guy and his son is adds the most weight to that story.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like a woman shrieking, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, and I hate to say it, but what they saw is so parallel with what I had seen, even though I believe that what I saw was most likely a skinwalker. But I think I'm going to join you in viable, and it is terrifying because even if it's just one thing, just one thing out there that's living out there, like it doesn't have to be the origin story, it doesn't have to be all the lore. It could just be this one unknown creature that happens to be in Sierra Nevada, and that's what people are seeing. So that is our episode on Penelope, the Sierra Nevada monster. I hope it was as creepy for you as it was for us. If it is, I'm going to give Charlie a future shout out because I know whatever sound effects and music he puts behind it is going to add so much more atmosphere to it, even more than we already are experiencing here.
Yeah, it's a vibe.
It's so creepy. I'll have to post a picture of what we have on the wall along with this that people know we're talking about.
Got to.
Because that's what got my attention. I'm like, this is really, really creepy.
Well, because we knew most of the other stuff on there.
Yeah, it was just so creepy. But thank you everybody for listening, for hanging out with us, getting creeped out. And if you have awesome pictures of Sierra Nevada and the mountain scenery, that's cool. I bet it's beautiful there. I'd love to hike it someday. And I want to shout this out now before I forget. Just again, July 7th, 2023. Because who knows when you're going to listen to this in the future.
Yeah, right.
July 7th, 2023 at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we will be doing our 3-year anniversary live stream, which is going to have a bunch of small...
3 years.
We're going to be celebrating 3 years.
Wow.
Hopefully Ben will be there. We're going to be doing a bunch of paranormal encounters, short ones that we've been given to give them their shine. Launch our new Patreon tier and detail all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
that's really exciting. We've worked on this for a while. I'm really excited to launch that.
Long time. And we got some new merch that we're dropping, episode series designs, and even a little bit more. So lots of exciting stuff that we're dropping, and we hope you can make it. And we're really excited about all that stuff.
And if you really like this episode, I hope you did. If you can go to Apple and leave a review and 5 stars, that would mean a lot. You could say something like, oh, man, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can go to Spotify and leave 5 stars. And go ahead, Tyler.
And a specific comment on that episode. I love that on Spotify. I love seeing, because, a comment is like, it encapsulates the whole podcast. What you think of this podcast? Unless it's negative, then sometimes they narrow in on things. But I love on Spotify that you can comment specifically about the episode you are listening to. I love that.
Yeah, it's a cool feature.
Absolutely. But thank you, everybody, so much for listening. We really appreciate you. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre,
a podcast as bizarre as you are.